Angie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here. You have a really unique story and just a really unique spirit. So I want to dive into that, but why don't you take us back to the beginning and tell us first about how you came to be diagnosed with cancer?
Okay. So I was 37 years old. Um, Healthy. I was actually a beach body coach at the time. So that's kind of interesting. So I was healthy. I was working out, eating, decent. 37 years old and no history of cancer in my family. So um, one night, Thursday night, actually my husband felt a lump. Um, and I knew like right when that happened, I was like, this is not normal.
Mm,
Um, because I've never felt lumps before. So Friday morning I called into my doctor right away. He got me in right away. He got me in to do a mammogram right away. From the mammogram, the radiologist wanted me to do an ultrasound right away. Um, and I kind of knew then, like, the radiologist was concerned. So I was like, this isn't good.
mm.
Got me in. So then the following Monday, I did a biopsy. And Wednesday, October 9th, it was actually my oldest son's birthday. And I remember thinking that morning, like, this is the day I'm going to
Mm.
find out I have cancer on my son's birthday. And I did. So my nurse called me and said my doctor has my biopsy results and wanted to see me in his office. And
Wow.
I know, no, that's not good.
No.
when
So,
they ask you to come in.
yeah, no doubt. So, Angie, you're
Yeah.
37. So, like,
Yeah.
you're younger than the age that you should be allegedly
Yeah.
getting mammograms.
Yeah.
So, how did
I
you
mean,
kind of fast track this? Like, a lot of women get resistance.
yeah, I remember my oncologist telling me if I would have waited till I was 40 years old, it would have been too late.
Yeah.
And that was like, holy cow. um, that hit me hard. So, yeah, I mean, you have to do that
Yeah.
at home screening. Like I just didn't do it. And I honestly was like, I'm not going to get a mammogram. Like I don't need a mammogram because
Mhm.
because I mean, honestly, because I had implants and the thought of thinking of squeezing that
Uh-huh.
into that machine, I was like, nope,
Mhm.
not doing
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And I didn't have the history. So I was like, I don't have to worry about this. Um,
So, like, you have
yeah.
implants, but, like, you also I don't know where you got your implants in terms of your life before cancer, but, like, you have boys, like, you have sons. So,
Mhm.
like, you obviously had some, like, lumpy boobs at some point in your life, you had some things that were, like, kind of going weird, or no?
No, no.
Not really ever before?
No, that's
Okay.
why when like this lump was very, very obvious,
Mhm.
and I was like, that is not good. And honestly, it was like protruding out. Like I don't know how I missed it. Like I honestly have no idea how it was missed because it literally showed up overnight.
Right, right. Okay, so tell me, you see your doc, she gives you the news of you have cancer. Where do you go from
Yeah.
there?
Um. So from there, it was at the end of the day. We met with him, and we're pretty close with our family doctor, and he's the one that diagnosed me, that gave me the news. So um, he I he told me I had triple negative breast cancer, which I had no idea what that was, but and it was grade 3 Nottingham scale 9 on 9. So it was like the most aggressive form of breast cancer. And he flat out told me, he's like, it's ugly and you're young. So, you know, basically it's not good.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I told my husband when we were driving into the doctor, I said, if I can't think straight when I'm in there, I said, we need to ask him, like, if this was you, where would you go?
Mm,
Um, if this was your wife,
mm.
where would you go? And he actually said it before we even asked it. He's like, if I was in your shoes, this is the place I'd go. So he gave us that information. I called the next day, and they called me back right away. And I mean, I didn't get an appointment for 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks were the longest 2 weeks of my life. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I just went from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that I do often say that period between, like, you have cancer, but you don't have a game plan yet.
Right.
That's hell.
It was horrible because you want it out. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And you
Yeah.
feel like you're out of control, like you have no plan.
Yeah.
It's awful. So once you get in to see someone at, like with oncology, where do they want to take you from there? Like triple negative, you must learn something over the next 2 weeks about triple negative breast. Like it couldn't
Yeah.
have been pretty.
No. So I at that point, yeah, I mean, the doctor said right away, this is very aggressive form of cancer. We need to go now, basically. And he told me, I mean, I didn't know any different. And he told me he wanted to try chemo first, because he wanted to see how my body how the tumor responded to it,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
Um, you know, giving my choices. These are your two choices: double mastectomy or lumpectomy. Well, either way, chemo and then lumpectomy
Hmm.
and radiation.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't have much time to decide, but um, that day, I think that was a Thursday, and like Monday, I was already back there getting my port placed,
Yeah.
so I could start chemo immediately. So it went pretty quick.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Okay. So you get chemo, then how does your body respond?
My body responded really well to chemo. Um, I was pretty lucky. it, I mean, after the first round of chemo, you could already feel that the tumor
Wow.
shrunk. So,
Wow.
so that was awesome.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yep.
And then you get through the rounds and then you have to decide essentially lumpectomy, mastectomy.
Right.
Okay. So
Um, yep. Sorry.
no, so I was just going to say, where do you go from there?
Yeah. Um, so 16 rounds of chemo and then 4 weeks off and then surgery. And, they told me you don't really have to decide until we get closer. And it was hard because I did not want to do a double mastectomy because I was a very active person and I didn't want that to mess with me. Like I like to work out and I didn't want that to wreck that.
Mhm.
But I also didn't want to go through radiation. Like both options scared the crap out of me. And it was one of those things like I just one day there was a couple things that happened that I was like, yep, this is what I have to do. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I don't want to regret the decision I didn't make. And that was the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
Um, but it was one of those things that finally we were just like, well, we have to do what we think is right for us right now, and this is what it is. So I ended up doing the lumpectomy and radiation.
Mm,
I had implants, so there's a lot more that goes
yeah.
on with that because I had implants. So that ended up being a lot more um, than what I anticipated.
Yeah. Like it's not just a simple lumpectomy and then you're done.
No, no,
Yeah.
that was not it at all.
Yeah. Which is like a rotten deal, really.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think like what's interesting about you and other women too that have implants before breast cancer is like you basically have to revert back to expanders. Is that what happened with you?
yeah. So I had when I went in for my lumpectomy, they took my implants out and put the expanders in.
Hmm.
And then, I was had to wait 4 weeks till we started the radiation. But what I didn't know is that I had to get, so the breast that wasn't affected by cancer, I had to get that deflated or emptied out before radiation because so so that breast wasn't in the way of the other one basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that and I was like, what? And I'm going like it's going into summertime. I enjoy my summers and here I'm going to be with one flat boob and the other one there. Like it
Yeah.
was horrible. I remember I left my plastic surgeon's office that day just bawling because I
Yeah.
felt like I took a million steps backwards. I'm like, I don't even have cancer anymore, and this is what I'm doing. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I did that, went through all of the radiation, and then that last day of radiation, I jumped in my car and beelined it to my plastic surgeon, who's 2 hours away, and got it filled back up.
So
But yeah,
you had one breast with the expander and one breast that was just deflated.
yes, the expander was in there, but deflated. So as you can imagine, that wasn't super comfortable for
No. Well,
35
expanders
days.
aren't known for being super comfortable,
Yeah. Oh my
period.
God.
Yeah.
Terrible. It
Mhm.
was horrible.
Yeah. Okay. So you go through that, then radiation. So sorry, go through radiation. Okay.
Yep.
Then you get to the other side. What does it feel like?
Um, so I remember it was July 7th of 2020 was my last day of radiation, and I rang that bell and I was so freaking excited, but at the same time completely freaked out. Which was weird. Like it was a weird feeling I didn't expect. Like, you wanted to be like shouting from the rooftop, like, yeah, I'm done, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I was like, holy crap, now what?
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking that because I mean, you go to these appointments, which suck, like that you have to go to radiation every day, for
Mhm.
35 days, every single day, or whatever. All these doctor's appointments, all of these things, and these people telling you, like, you're okay, and then that was gone. And I was left like, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
And completely freaked out, honestly.
Yeah. It's kind of just like, it's real lonely in those.
Super lonely.
Yeah. So how are you, like, how were you feeling after you were done radiation?
Radiation was terrible. It was worse than chemo for me.
Wow.
I was so tired. Like it completely knocked me out.
Wow.
So that was really hard to recover from. Really hard.
Yeah. So you were exhausted.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
Completely exhausted.
Okay. And were you off work at like throughout all this too?
No,
No.
no, I was still in work. I Luckily, radiation I did just here in town, the same town I work in, whereas my oncology was 2 hours away. And I was like, I can't do that for radiation because we have to go every day. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd come to work um, every day. I mean, there were days, a few days here and there that I would leave early or something because I was just too tired. But no, otherwise I was here at work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're exhausted, beat up, have all this surgery stuff going on. So how do you start like the path back? Like you came from being a beach body coach, eating healthy, exercising. You have this active family life. I know your boys are active. So how do you start back? Like it seems almost insurmountable. So what did you do first?
Um, I just like I remember just trying to give myself grace. Um, but at the same time, like just being really, really crabby about it.
Mm,
The other piece is I did have triple negative, but I there is a small bit of estrogen in there, just a low percentage. And so because of that, my doctor thought maybe my oncologist thought maybe we go back up. Maybe he might try me on tamoxifen.
mhm.
And so radiation ended in July. In August, I went to my oncology appointment and I was hoping he'd be like, nope, you're good. But he said, no, we want to start you on tamoxifen. He's like, you're young. It was aggressive. We need to do everything that we can.
Lovely.
Yeah, I know. And
Mhm.
I read about tamoxifen
Sure. Sure you did.
and I did not want to go on tamoxifen,
Yeah, no
but I
doubt.
did. So there's a lot more that goes into the story because I started tamoxifen in August, like middle of August, the beginning of September. I had these excruciating headaches, and I called my oncologist and I was like, could this be related to the tamoxifen? That's the only thing that's changed. And they were kind of concerned. So I actually drove 2 hours there. Um, they wanted to do an MRI, but couldn't
Sure.
because of the expanders. And so they did a CT scan, and at that they ended up admitting me, like putting me into the ER so I could get in and get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
CT scan done
Yeah.
immediately, that whole business.
Mhm.
Um, and the CT scan showed a lesion in my skull. And that night, we left there thinking I had metastatic cancer.
Yeah.
Um,
This is the end.
this is it. Like my life is ending. I mean, I remember telling my husband all the things that we needed to do because, you know, Like, I
Yeah.
just wanted like 5 more years. Like, give me 5 years so I can see my kids graduate, you know?
Shit. Mhm.
So we went through that. I mean, we did a PET scan then, and there was nothing else. And so my
Mm.
oncologist is like, yeah, that would be a little strange if there's just one spot, you know? Basically, let's just see what happens.
Oh,
I was like,
Lord.
all right, well, I guess whatever. You're the professional here.
Okay.
Went home. I mean, it was a couple weeks. This pain in my head kept getting worse, and it was just in the same spot. Like somebody was stabbing me, and that's where that lesion was. And then I started getting all this pressure in my head, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I called him. I was like, this is not normal. Something is wrong. Whether this is cancer or not, something's going on,
Yeah.
whatever. Go. Long story short, ended up getting into a neurologist who had like one opening
Yeah.
the next day. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a miracle. Got in there, did another CT scan. It wasn't growing. So then they thought, no, we're fine. No, we're not fine. It hurts,
Yeah.
all this stuff. Get in, see a neurologist. He tells me, well, it doesn't look like it's growing, but that's because it's like smashed between your 2 layers of your skull and it has nowhere to go. That's why you're having all this pressure. And I flat out asked him, like, if you give me it straight here, like, what do you think this is? And he told me he thought it was cancer.
Wow.
I leave that office again, like trying to prepare myself, like, all right, this is it,
Yeah.
whatever. Scheduled for surgery the next week for a
Okay.
craniectomy. Go in, have this removed. And
Oh,
he
shit.
himself, I know, he himself calls me 3 days later and he's like, I am not wrong very often, but in your case, I'm very happy I was wrong. He's
You're like,
like,
suck it.
it's benign, and I was like, holy crap.
You
All
just
right.
happen to have a benign lesion in your skull.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
That was not cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, it's the recovery from that.
Like,
And then I had
Angie, like either one of these things on their own is very traumatizing, like just the cancer or
yeah,
just the
I know.
brain surgery that you went through.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, skull surgery. It was ridiculous.
Okay. So what happens with the tamoxifen?
The tamoxifen then, okay, so let's try to restart it. Because that wasn't the
The problem. Okay.
So that was October. I did the October of 2020. I had the head surgery, and then we started again in December. And I was on it through, I think, March then. But everything, it was horrible. I had horrible joint pain. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I felt like I was 90 years old. It was terrible. And I mean, even like the boys, like my boys, when they would watch me like stand up from the couch or like in the mornings when I would get out of bed, I couldn't move. And reading more about tamoxifen, and yes, that can be a symptom of that and whatever. And my oncologist did say, if you're having horrible side effects from this, we aren't going to keep you on it because it's really not probably doing you much good. So
yeah, and you got triple negative. It's rough. Yeah. Okay.
So finally by March, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. Like, I'm not, if this is one thing that's causing it, I mean, I know it can just be a symptom of the chemo and everything else, but if this is one thing that's causing that, I don't want it. Like, my quality of life matters too. So
yeah,
we decided that it was probably best for me to go off of it. So that was March of 21.
Okay. Okay. So then, Angie, we connected in, the fall.
Yep. Like right before, I want to say it was wasn't between like Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think.
So you sent me a note. I have an application for my program that women have to complete, and you completed yours before you started in on the program. And I have what you wrote to me here.
Oh.
Okay.
I don't remember what I wrote.
It's good. Okay. You say weight gain, I can't lose it. Okay. I'm eating right, working out 5 to 6 days per week. So I'm curious what this program is going to do differently for me and what my money is actually would actually go towards. I'm like, okay. All right. Okay. So we meet, which I love. I had to read that to you because I know you get a kick out of it. So we meet, and rightfully so. And I say this all the time, like people find me on TikTok or Instagram, and they kind of are wondering if I'm actually a real person.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, fair, which fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So we meet because you're struggling with weight gain, really. So after all this, like you go from being fit, active, healthy, then you gain weight. Like how much weight did you gain?
There is one, it went up to like 20 pounds
Okay.
of weight gain. Yeah.
Which is obviously contributing to you feeling not like yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the weight gain, my whole body ached, and just my like just my mindset, it was
Uh-huh.
just
Yeah.
not in a good spot at
No.
all.
No. And so many women say that they're like just a shell of the person that they used to be, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Right.
Some stuff
Yeah.
has gone down here.
And so the interesting thing, I want to go back because because I was a Beachbody coach, I did a lot of stuff on social media, like
Yeah.
posted a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So like my cancer journey, I shared openly
Yeah.
on social media. More so because I was like, I had no idea this is what cancer all entailed. So,
Yeah.
I was very open about my journey. And then after cancer, like I would post about just like how life after cancer was so much harder than life with cancer. And there was one thing I posted, and a friend of mine, she reached out to me, who also had cancer, breast
Mm.
cancer, and she sent me one of your posts.
Oh.
And that's how I got connected with you. So she sent me one of your posts, and it was literally almost the exact same thing I just posted, and I was like, holy cow, like who is this chick,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, like, who is this? Because like she gets me. And that was my biggest struggle, I think, like that nobody could understand what I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I started following you, and I followed you for 6 months. And I was like, literally every single post you posted, I was like, yes. Like I would just be like, part of me was like, oh, okay, I'm not
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
this is real
Yeah.
stuff. Cause that's how I felt. Like I felt like I was crazy. I mean, my husband can't understand it. My boys can't understand it. My friends can't understand it. Like nobody can understand. And so it got to the point where it's like there was nobody I could talk to
Yeah.
because nobody was experiencing what I was experiencing. So
No.
that's how I started. And finally, I was like, well, I'm just going to go for it. Like, that's when I reached out to you, and I was like, what do I have to lose? Because
Yeah.
I'm seriously like losing my mind. So
Yeah. So what was it that pushed you over the edge? Like what was it that you're like, I've got to change this?
I was just sick of it, like sick of feeling what I was feeling. And I remember one post that I made on social media. I remember talking about like all the things like, you not being able to lose weight, not like having any muscle tone, and, just all the fun things that happen after cancer that people don't realize.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody commenting on that saying, well, at least you're still alive though. And that, I don't like that because I like felt bad. It's one of those things like you feel guilty, and I was like,
Oh,
holy shit, like, am I a horrible person because I'm not just happy to be alive?
yeah.
I was like, that wasn't good enough for me. I was like, no, I'm 40 at the time, 40 years old. Like,
Oh.
I'm not just happy to be alive. I feel like absolute shit, and I'm not. I can't do this for
You
the rest of my
you
life.
can be grateful to be cancer free and still want to improve your health. Like
Yes.
that is allowed. I don't know if there's ever been, I think Brene Brown does a YouTube on this. That's like, there's not really a sentence that starts with at least you.
Yeah.
That does not end well, that sentence.
No.
Don't
No.
do that.
No.
That's not a good thing
No.
to say. Okay.
No. And so, and just the feel, like I said, I mean, I was constant, like so fearful of reoccurrence,
Uh-huh.
just a mess, like not happy. And
Yeah.
I just did not feel comfortable in my skin. And
Yeah.
it was like, this is just not me. I don't like it. And
So
so
many
finally I
people
was
think
like,
like, so many people think cancer is just like this, like blip,
yeah,
like, oh, your hair grows back, you're back,
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
and it's not. It's like drags on for so
yeah.
long.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big thing. Like I'm, well, gonna be 3 years cancer free here.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
here I am, like just started your program, a couple months ago
Yeah.
because I waited that long and I was still struggling like
Yeah.
3 years later.
Yeah. Totally. There's women that reach out to me, they're 5 years, like 4, 5, 6 years
Yeah,
out from
yeah,
cancer. And they're like,
yeah,
I haven't pieced this back together yet.
yeah.
Like, that's no way to live.
No,
Shit.
no.
Like, really? Okay. So you had gained around 20 pounds, you said.
Hmm.
And so where are you at now?
I have lost 10 pounds
Ah,
since
okay.
being in your program.
Okay. And so what made the difference for you? Going from like not being able to drop the weight, what finally made the difference for you?
Um, the way I was eating, I mean, so it's kind of funny because I was like, I tried absolutely everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, clearly I didn't. So I've never counted macros before,
yeah.
and that's, your focus. So um that helped. And I think like we talked the targeted exercise too. I mean, I had so in my head, like I was a runner and
Yeah,
I thought, I ran a marathon, I ran a lot
yeah,
and like hardcore workouts, but
yeah.
that wasn't working for me because hello, I had like significant joint pain too. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
it, it got to the point where I dreaded working out
yeah,
almost. And so just changing that, like I haven't done any impact workouts.
yeah.
Um, but like I am seeing definite like muscle tone now. My hair is growing like crazy, which is awesome.
Yes.
Um,
That's
and
so
yeah,
your
the weight
nutrition,
loss.
hey?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm not like really changing a lot of what I'm eating, just eating more of certain things. So,
Yeah. It's wild because women will say to me, like when they're preparing for the program, they'll be like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to,
mhm,
buy? What do I need to
right,
like add to my grocery list? And I'm like, like we're going to switch some things around, but it's going to be gradual over time. Like you don't have to clean out your pantry or anything like that.
right,
And we'll just see how it goes. Cause like a lot of the foods that you love, like you can still have them every once in a while.
right.
That's like part of the joy of life, is it not? It is for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So you're starting to see muscle definition again.
mhm,
Yeah. So that must make you happy in terms of getting ready for summer now.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how are you feeling now? Like, you said 3 years out. What's life like for you now?
Good. Like, I mean, even people have commented it, even coworkers and stuff, like just that I seem more positive.
Mm.
I mean, my husband's commented too. I just like I literally was in like living in fear. Um and everything. Every time I had a little feeling of something, I'm like, this is it. Cancer's back, whatever. And now it's just knowing that I'm doing everything that I can because of the tools you're giving me. Like eating right, eating the way I'm eating and the exercise and the activity and the things I'm learning about like the myths that we all hear about cancer
Mhm.
recurrence and what causes cancer, that is craziness that people say to you. And I mean, it literally freaks you out because people say stupid things and all that stuff. So knowing, learning, I mean, I'm learning, you know, how to prevent recurrence. And I literally hardly ever think about cancer anymore, which is
Wow.
great.
Yeah, I'd take that. I would take
Well,
that.
honestly, that part is bigger than the weight loss for me because it was, I mean, it's all great, but
Yeah.
like that was
Well, you're
honestly the
free.
hardest thing.
You're
Yeah,
free of it.
seriously. Yeah,
Otherwise, you're in like this mental lock still,
it was
thinking
horrible.
about it, living in it. Now you're free.
Mhm. Yes.
Mm. Okay, Angie, thanks for sharing your story. I have one more question for you. You've been really generous with your time and sharing like this insight into what you went through. my last question for you really is, if there was a woman who was in the same spot as you know, like just diagnosed, what would be like the one piece of advice you would give that woman? Like, what's the one thing that you would want to pass along?
I think, oh boy, kind of like what we've already talked about. I would want her to know that life after cancer does not have to be harder than life with cancer, and just do not settle for just being happy to be alive. And like you said, you can be happy to be alive and where you're at, but also wanting more, because I think the biggest thing is like you need to feel alive,
Yeah.
and that's so important.
Wow. Good advice. Good advice. Angie, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.